Imagine telling the world's greatest performer, you didn't lose because you were worse. You lose because of your gender category. Good afternoon, judges. Today, as a Prime Minister, I'm here to agree on this motion. This House would abolish gender media awards. So in today's debate, I'm going to first clarify the motion and define some words, and then I'm going to provide 3 points about why we support this motion. So first of all, let me define some words. Gender media awards means awards categories that separate based on gender, such as Best Actor and Best Actress. And abolish means completely removing gender-based division and replacing them with one unified gender-neutral category for each award. And to clarify, we are not abolishing awards themselves. We are only abolishing the gender separation within them. So who will implement? This motion will be implemented by major awarding institutions, as well as other global media award bodies. So they'll remove categories like Best Actor, Best Actress, and replace them with Best Performances. And the stakeholders are actors and performers because they're now in a larger unified pool, and award institutions because they need to change how categories are structured, and also audience and society because viewers receive a clear signal of who is truly the best, not who is truly the best in their gender. Now our goal is simple. We want to create a system that is fair and where there have no division based on gender, and it's the best performance wins it all. Now moving on to my first point. Gender awards are inherently unequal. Gender awards are unfair because they separate people based on gender rather than ability. This is true because acting is a skill-based profession. What makes a performance good is emotional depth, authenticity, creativity, and technique, none of which depend on whether someone is male or female. When we divide awards into actor and best actress, we're not just organizing categories. We're making a statement that men and women cannot be judged on the same standard. The mechanism here is important. When institutions separate groups, they legitimize the idea that these groups are fundamentally different in ability. Over time, this shapes how society views talent, not as individuals' actions, but as something filtered through identity. For example, in fields like directing or screenwriting, there's no gender separation. Everyone competes together because we recognize the skill is universal. Acting should be no different. This matters because gender-based separation reinforces outdated stereotypes and prevent true equality. If we continue to divide people at the highest level of recognition, we signal that equality is not yet real. By abolishing these categories, we move toward a system where people are judged purely on merit. Now we are to my second point. A single category increases the value and credibility of awards. Combining categories makes award more meaningful and more competitive. This is true because currently there are two winners every year, one male and one female, which reduces the exclusivity of the award. When we merge categories, there's only one winner, meaning every nominee must compete against the absolute best, regardless of gender. The mechanism is about competition intensity. A larger, unified pool increases the standard required to win. Judges must compare all performances directly, which forces a more rigorous evolution process and ensure that the winner truly stand out. For example, awards like Best Picture are not divided into categories, and this is exactly why they are seen as a highest honor, because only one film can win. This matters because prestige comes from scarcity and difficulty. When an award is harder to win, it carries more weight. A unified category increases trust in the system. As audiences know the winner is not just the best in a subgroup, but the best overall. This strengthens the credibility of institutions like the Oscars and ensure that excellence is genuinely recognized. For example, before you might have one best actor in the world and one best actress in the world. But right now with our motion, it's like the best actor and best actress need to compete each other to finally find out who is actually the best in the world. Now moving on to my last point. Gender categories excluded non-binary individuals. Gender awards are exclusionary to people who do not identify within the gender binary. This is true because individuals who are non-binary or gender diverse does not fit into either actor or actress categories. The current system forces them into an impossible choice. Either compete in a category that does not reflect their identity or be excluded from recognition altogether. The mechanism here is structural exclusion. When a system is built only for two categories, anyone outside those categories is automatically marginalized. This is not about individual prejudice. It is about the design of the system itself. We are already seeing real-world examples when actors have expressed discomfort or difficulty with gendered award categories. This shows that the current model is no longer aligned with modern understanding of identity. This matters because awards are not just about recognition, they send a message about who belongs in the industry. If we maintain gender category, we're telling non-binary individuals that there's no space for them. By moving to a single category, we create a system that is inclusive, fair, and reflective of contemporary society. These people who are non-binary, they can still compete in our motion. But however, if they compete in these awards where it's either actor or actress, this is completely unfair to them. Because if I want to compete in a actors one, the people might say that I'm a actress, but vice versa. So at the end of this debate, you must decide: do we reward people based on who they are or how good they are? And we choose skills. We choose fairness. We choose a system where the best truly wins. To vote for better skilled motion, please vote for us. Thank you for listening.
Nowadays, the media awards are usually gendered. For example, in movie awards, there are best women actresses and the best men actresses. This has been a culture for a long time, and there is definitely a reason for that. Different genders have different skill sets, and we have diverse awards to recognize more people. As the leader of the opposition, I will firstly explain the burdens, rebut the Prime Minister, and explain our team's two arguments. Firstly, the government's burden is to prove that gendered media awards have a harmful influence to the society and to the ones who are getting the media awards. However, the government's burden is to prove that gendered media awards are helpful to the society and the awardees, which I will prove in my two arguments. So now moving to rebuttals to the Prime Minister. The Prime Minister's the second point was about it will reduce exclusivity and they should work for the absolute best when they're for the awards. So we believe that giving awards is a sense of recognition and it is a type of celebration. So more people are getting awards by gendered awards because if we abolish the award, there will be only one award instead of two. So also, if they only want a unified category and if they want to add weight to the award because there is only one, why don't they just give awards once in 10 years and just choose the best movie? We agreed that exclusivity is important, but at the first place, award ceremonies were made to celebrate together and to award people, so we would like to award a lot of people instead of just unifying the category. Also, they talked about there may be non-binary people with different identities, so they cannot be getting the awards. We believe that we can build awards with other identities instead, and this does not just give a reason to abolish the gender award category itself. Also, the Prime Minister has gave you a scenario in which although you're a great actress, you don't get the award because of your gender. Then they proposed the government's model, which one person, regardless of the gender, gets the award. Judge, take a minute in what he has just told you. In either world, the likeliness or unlikeliness of getting an award is the same for any gender. The status quo actually increases the total number of people getting an award. The Prime Minister's frame just shows the opening government's shallow understanding of the motion and simple math. Also, they talked about the equalizing movies to individual actors and actresses. Movies are supposedly a combination of scores and actually writing of screenplays, cinematography, pictures, and graphics, and also acting of one's actual career. Also, they talked about the biological points. So the movie is just movie and acting is just acting. It is not really related to gender. And they gave a point about there's so many sectors where really not dividing gender categories. However, we believe that there are different skill sets for people that are needed for acting, which we will be proving in the first argument. So now moving on to our team's two argument. Our first argument today is justification. Like we briefly told you in our rebuttals for the first argument of the government team, we believe that it is justified for us to give gendered media awards because, like we said, they are separate skill sets. We believe that there are separate things. So, like we already told you, a woman depicting a woman character, a man depicting a man character. So, let's say a man or even man depicting a woman character, a woman depicting a man character. We believe that all of those things all require different skill sets. We believe that they cannot just be categorized in one form of acting. We believe that the same thing can also be said for different characters too. For therefore, of the type of movie, because of the type of like their acting art is different, we believe it is fundamentally justified for us to divide those awards. In the worst case, if we just follow the government team's logic, where we say we live in a world where gender doesn't matter and gender is not an important of skill sets, it does not mean that government should absolutely abolish the entire idea of gender media awards. The government now has the main point of their main criteria and the main burden of this debate. So we also need to prove that there is significant harm because of gender media. They also need to prove that there is a significant harm because of gender media awards, and they have to forcefully ban and abolish all gendered media awards of all sets. That is their main burden. But us, the opposition, believe that there is no such harm, and they believe that it is just a freedom of award, and we believe that it is just a freedom of the award giver to exactly decide it in the first place. And their argument about art was not give a clear and enough reason to just forcefully abolish it. So, our second argument was about recognition through celebration. It is very simple. Our team simply wants more people to understand and recognize the existence of female or male actors. Why we want people to know that they exist, and we this is the reason why we give awards. This is why do we just give awards to celebrate people's action? No, right? We believe we do this because we recognize their talents and their effort. And through this, we can actually spread the idea of representation. We can actually allow more people to know about the situation, know about the difference of characters. We believe that we're the ones who are showing these people to the society and changing stereotypes one by one. As we recognize more actors will be able to shine and they will be the ones who can get more opportunities. So, Judge, today, as the leader of the opposition, I rebutted the Prime Minister and talked about our two arguments. First, which was about justification. So, it is not really about biology, their argument about biology, and it is not related to art. We believe that there is a separate skill set because a woman acting a woman and man acting a man is different. And our second argument about celebration, where a lot of actors should be celebrated, and this is the original reason why the movie awards were made. Thus, I'm proud to oppose.
Now, so as Deputy Prime Minister, I'm gonna firstly rebut the opponent's point, and then I'm going to rebut our points. So firstly, moving on to my rebuttals. They say how like different skill set in the justification and how like these people have different skill sets. But then this is like a argument that is like but as my partner has said like biologically like deterministic, which is there's no like way for a male to like really act um as like differently as like these females. So like acting is where like this empathy is in like and then like people are actually like trying to deliver like this idea that people like different like genders can like not like turn like oh who's a better actor, like both genders can also like compete against themselves, not like the men and the woman has like different because they have different genders, we have to like separate them from different awards because these how they say that they have different skill sets does not stand because like firstly these like men and women act like they have like different acts, and then these people might have like, for example, the men and the women are like acting about like someone who is in like a playground, but then the men and the woman may act like who is better, who is a better actor or not. But then if the gender separates them, the people who actually like is like, for example, if the man is a better actor than the woman, like they still can only win their like only men's awards, but instead like if they had like this Oscar awards, for example, to like these like the whole world, then they probably will get a better celebration and then a bigger celebration. And then they also say how like these celebrations a lot of people should be celebrated, so like if we have different genders, more people could be celebrated. But then like these like how many people who are celebrated does not like stand like how the people acted. So if we want more celebrated to celebrate people, we should maybe like expand like these categories, not just be by of the like how much we are giving out the awards. So then if we're keeping like these gender awards for like more winners, it actually like cheapens the awards, which is like the Oscars itself is a very good award. But if these like if we have more winners, these awards might not be as good as before. And then it should just so like it should just say if different genders meets a protected category. And I think I heard a POI.
Uh-huh. Uh, I already mentioned in my rebuttals that if they really care about the way how much the movie is how much the award is worth it, then why don't you guys just give awards once in 10 years?
I was just about to answer that in a second, but sure, I just answer it now. So, firstly, that like these awards, if we have it like per 10 years, this award is like if we have 10 years to award, like this 10 years inside that 10 years, these some of the really good like movies will get like instantly just get away because people might not remember them or something, and then these like people might just like have too many movies to award. So these 10 years, it actually does like how many years does not actually like change the like a thing that like this how much this award is like worth. And then if we only like just put make this or like a lesser, this will actually like increase this award's like, as I said before, its worthiness. And it also makes more movie to like see, and then people will memorize like more movies and actually give the right decisions. And then now also like keeping gender awards like they are like just like trying to like say that oh how the men is like and the woman should be separated just because maybe some people have like different skill sets as them. And then like we win this debate because firstly like we are the only one that says that how the like this movie and art should be judged on its own terms, and it's also free from irrelevant like decisions. And also we saw how like how we produce like the provided us clear solutions for these like non-binary individuals. So like these opposition model actually like exclude anyone who doesn't fit into like maybe like in the gender binary. And then the OG also says that how like this society is moving toward like these gender neutrality, and then like by abolishing these awards, we move the media from away from like a male and a female like awards into like a truly like platform for like both genders, and but like how excellent they are.
Judge, three things in my speech. First, I'll go over what the government has told you so far. Then I'll take a look at our case from different perspectives that the government never mentioned. Lastly, some preemptives for the closing half. I'd like to mention that the government's team's case only works under their very specific assumption that the meaning of the awards, its value, depends on its rarity. Why? Under that logic, shouldn't we just have one award in the entire ceremony? Would that satisfy the government? Apart from these, I also have 3 responses directly to the opening government. First off, they have told you that one person in one category is more equal because everyone competes together. But this is only formal equity. This is not substantive equity, and their counterfactual just assumes that actors enter the ceremony from the same starting point. They do not. Men and women or non-binary people, they do not get the same kind of roles. They do not get the same kind of scripts. So when government says, just let them all compete in the same ceremony, they ignore the unequal start line before the award even begins. The delta in their world is not fairness or equity. The delta is that one protected space for recognition disappears completely. Their logic is the same as saying one open category in sport is fair because everyone may enter. In theory, yes, this may be true. In real life, no. If the input itself is unequal, then the output will surely be unequal. What the government is looking at is not a utopia, but rather a dystopia where gender categories start from the same starting line when they do not. Second, government has also told you that gender categories may make a statement that men and women are not equal. We think that this is a wrong assumption because gendered awards do not say that men and women are worth different amounts. They say that in a gendered industry, we should make sure that both groups are seen and that both groups are protected, they are celebrated. This is not saying one group is inferior, that is protection. Think about what these award ceremonies actually mean. They are not lab tests, they are public rituals. They tell the industry that these performances matter, these stories matter, and that these peoples matter. So if you merge the categories into one, you do not remove biological gender from the industry. You just remove one mechanism that guarantees equal visibility for all actors and all actresses, all non-binary people. Next, I'd like to extend this debate through a set of stakeholders that the government never talked about. Actors, the general public, and most importantly, the minority groups. I will then weigh both sides in a way that will be clear for you. First off, let's start with the actors. In the status quo, actors compete within gendered categories, and this does 2 things. A, it increases the number of winners of the award. 2, it keeps comparison within similar role demands. This matters, and this is important because acting is not one uniform skill. Different roles require different forms of expression and different skill sets also. Some roles may rely on physical presence, for example, and some may rely on emotional shifts and emotional expression. These are shaped by how scripts are written and how stories are told. In the government, they collapse all actors into one category. The counterfactual is important because now judges of those award ceremonies must now compare across different baselines. They must decide if one type of performance is better than another, even when the demands are not the same from the start. More importantly, the distribution of recognition. Awards, they act as signals and they shape the amounts of casting, funding, and career growth that one actor or one actress comes across. This is a path-dependent market. Early signals matter so much more than later ones. Under status quo, more actors receive these signals. Under the government's world, only one does. The delta in this debate is clear. Fewer signals, more concentration of success, and fewer career breakthroughs. If they want an equal market and an equal industry for all actors and all actresses, they should actually just go with the status quo so that more actors can receive the opportunity of these signals. Second, the general public. The government has touched on the general public, but they didn't accept the fact that awards are not internal to the industry. They guide how audiences see film or they see life itself. Movies aren't just about how well you act. They're also about the scripts. They're also about the directing. And in the status quo, multiple categories, they give structure. Audiences can track different types of excellence. They see a wider range of performances also. This improves engagement and it also improves understanding different roles. Under the government world, again, there's only one winner. This looks simple, but it reduces information that the general public can actually get. The public now only sees one best performance. They lose visibility over other, stronger performances. This narrows cultural attention. It doesn't bring more attention to it. Third, minority groups. The government tries to claim that they are neutral and they are objective when they are removing gender categories and say that this will create more equality within this industry. However, this kind of objectiveness in rules do not mean objectiveness in outcomes also. In a single category, judges rely more on shared ideas about what great acting and great scripts, great directing looks like. These ideas often reflect dominant norms. This creates risks because minority actors must compete in a space where bias can still exist, but now with fewer slots. Under status quo, there is at least a guarantee of recognition across categories. This acts as a safety net. Remove that, and you raise the barrier to entry even further. Let's compare both sides in a more structured way. The government claims that they offer symbolic equality. They remove a formal distinction between men and women, and that this sends a message that both are equal. However, they also reduce the number of awards they get. This leads to fewer people gaining recognition. This weakens career pipelines, which just acts as a cycle of no recognition, no equality, no nothing, and reduced meaning of the award ceremonies itself. Government trades material outcomes for symbolic gain we might not even come across. We, as the opposition, will secure material benefits while also accepting a limited symbolic cost. The key question we'd like to ask you is about the impact. That material harms can be scaled, and when fewer people get recognition, the effect compounds over time. Mr. Speaker, we've talked about all major stakeholders in the motion so far, and we believe that the opening opposition can contribute to this debate even more than any other closing benches can. Thank you.
This debate ultimately comes down to solving a partial problem of solving gender equality. And our stakeholders are actors, performers, film industries, and award institutions, and the audiences. Okay, so now I'll go into the rebuttals, then into our main points. So first of all, the first opposition side has talked about being able to only provide one award instead of two, as of not having a separation considering the different fundamental abilities of women and men. Yes, of course, all genders do have various abilities and even perspectives. And although she talked about how awards would become more difficult to win, like how does this happen? Because how would it? Because wouldn't it be fine to just have 2 or 3 awards for the top artist? Why only one? Why not give 2 out? For the second rebuttal, the opposition side has talked about recognizing more actors and their existences. But if they, op side, really want to just give few amounts of award, like only one, as they talked about in their speech, and saying that much more actors would be recognized, that does not make sense, because how does only giving out one award and then recognizing more actors work out? Because they have a contradiction in their speech. No, thank you. And they have a contradiction in their speech, and we can see that this is their weakness. Third, that furthermore, the second opposition team has said performances are too different to compare, but awards already compare completely in different roles. For example, whether in which field it works, but for example, acting versus drama. And the entire point of judging is to evaluate across these fields and across these differences, not just in the same ones. Okay, now I'll be moving on to our main points. So first of all, separation reinforces gender inequality. If we truly believe in equality, there's no reason to split categories, right? Especially in the current world, there is a lot of misconceptions of how men how women compete so differently than men, that they cannot compete directly with men. For example, I used to play baseball, and a lot of the students around me just criticized or never accepted me as a girl because I just played baseball. That doesn't make sense. And also, we can see these situations happening in leader positions of jobs and career venues. So separating and basically having a wall between actors and actresses is the exact same logic with segregation. And equal in this world is almost never impossible. It's almost never happening in this world because people just keep have misleading conceptions of having walls between men and women. And audiences and mainly these industries internalize these divides, slowing down the process and never being able to actually achieve the SDGs number 5. And you cannot claim equality while you keep insisting on separation, right? Second point, it also forces all industries to actually fix biases. In this age of time, valuing diversity, it doesn't make sense to just have uh, gender segregation in this world. Right now, even if men get better roles everywhere at school, jobs, occupations, and even in the celebrity world, but women still win. Like they get the best actresses award, and industries look totally fair. But in our world, everyone competes in one category. If only men get nominated, it's obvious, right? People start questioning, like, why are there no women's, or if the industry itself is biased. This matters because studios want good reputation from the society, from the public, and they do not want backlash or criticism. And so they are forced to give women better roles and actually fix these problems in order to solve even a single bit of gender equality so that the society doesn't think that they just are unfair because they're just representing men as the best awards, and casts treating more castes much more fairly. So these are all the reasons we are proud to propose, and we deserve to win this debate. Thank you.
So, like, first in my speech, I will be giving like a one quick extension, which is on like reducing a women's visibility and recognition, and then like I'll be talking about how like having these gendered awards empowers young women. So first, like women are structurally they are given less resources, and we agree that like um basically it is in the status quo. Film and the TV industries, etc., they are highly male dominated. They are basically more leading roles for men. They are more complex roles, more screen time, more funding for male products. So even historically, men have won most of the prizes in everything from the Oscars to the Golden Globes. So in these categories that are said to be neutral, the men they win most of the prizes. So this is why we believe that if we actually combine the categories and put women into like the same so-called fair playing grounds as men, women will comparatively receive less prizes, receive less visibility and recognition than other men. So um, traditionally, the Oscars are like gender neutral. Like everyone could win a prize, and traditionally we have seen the outcome, which is that men they just win more prizes in the Oscars. Like so what government right now is suggesting is very dangerous. They suggest that we directly eliminate gender categories that actually right now is giving women visibility and agency, and judge them with the so-called fair voting bodies and industrial bias, and force them to face this structural disadvantages and just label them off as not competitive enough against men who are structurally advantaged. So we believe that like if we actually combine these categories, women they will like directly receive less visibility, receive less agency because like basically they just receive less prizes on the total. So we believe basically this harm is irreversible as like young women basically they see like women receiving less prizes in these categories. They see like men winning most of
the prizes, the big prizes in art, in acting, in directing, etc. And basically a gender neutral best performance award will just like picture men holding the trophy, men winning the first prize. So when young women, especially young women, like young people, they watch these ceremonies that prioritize men year after year, they will inherently believe that like men are perhaps like more capable than women, which is not. Women are structurally basically have less agency, have less resources than men. So without gendered rewards on our side, a woman like basically they believe that men and women they are equal. They all receive prizes for their like hard work for their both men and women receive recognition, and basically young women are like empowered more. Young women see basically that like there are always best actresses and they are best actors. They are just different prizes. So they are both like the first place as an actor. They are just like different, categorized by gender rather than merit. So we believe that abolition still does not remove the systemic bias and systemic inequality in the system. We believe it just hides the bias behind this false neutrality, which like government suggests that it will like the system will judge directly on merit, etc. Which we think this actively disempowers young women because it makes male dominance looks like natural merit, which is not. It's because of structural reasons, etc., 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 that men win these prizes more than women. Yeah. Now moving on to like basically um some comparatives and impact. So basically, like in these major categories where like men win most of the prizes, we believe that like these categories are in the status quo judged by neutral juries, like voted by neutral like audience, and still like the results are overwhelmingly male. So we believe that through this we can like basically see that men they just strategically they just get more resources, especially in like acting, in art, etc., etc. So like basically what government doing right now is just like combining these categories where women they are originally guaranteed visibility, like the best actress prize, and actually just put them into like this unfair grounds with the same like unfair voting body with these same industry biases that we now see in the Oscars, and exactly these same like structural disadvantages that we have talked about. So like right now in the status quo, there's still like voter bias, like voters they believe that like voters may be overwhelming male, or voters they may prioritize male performance over women performance. So we believe that like if female led films etc they are like given less recognition in this like gender combined category, then women basically they are never going to gain visibility or agency in these gender combined categories. Rather, if we have different like gender separate categories like the best actress, best actor, etc., then women they are able to have more agency, women are able to gain visibility, and female led films are more able to succeed. So they have this protected category where they're able to actually succeed, actually benefit, actually compete against more fairer playing grounds, actually like be credited for the success, for the hard work in level playing grounds, instead of being entered into like a directly unfair playing grounds against males, which are like advantaged by the system. Um, Basically the direct impact right now here is that there will be a message sent by these gendered awards is that like female led films will succeed and females can be the best actress. So thank you.
So what this motion is basically asking us is that which society is going to have a better life for the actors and also for the society itself. On the proposition side, where we're gonna have like these not only men is gonna act as men and women is gonna act as women, but they're gonna fight it with as women as going to do the men's acting, and like the men's are gonna do women's acting, or on a team opposition where they're gonna still gonna just like compete on their same categories. So we think that if we did not abolish it, then that means that what the opposition side had explained in both the opening and the closing opposition had clearly mentioned that yeah, it's going to be better because if there's like um both like only men's gonna do the man actings, then they will be able to both have an equal um you know, words after that. But however, do you think that this is really an equality? If there's a person who wants to do the men's acting, but however they can't um because they're stating that they can only do women's acting, then how would this woman's actor who really wants to do the men's acting, how this gonna really going to be better on their side of the house? They only just like continue to explain that, oh, it's gonna be equality because men and women are gonna both get equal awards. But what about there's a woman who doesn't really understand about its gender, and they are just like being known as, oh, you're looked as like women, so just like go to the women's actor. Is this the really good thing just to say as this is an equality? No. As our first speaker had already mentioned, our uh
Right.
no, thank you. As our member of government had already explained, that even though what the team opposition for both opening and closing opposition had explained this debate, it doesn't really mean that in the status quo, then why there's still women and men doing both women and men's acting? Why is there a woman who's acting as a man, and why is there a woman who's acting as sorry, why is there an actor who's acting as a men's actor, and why is there a woman who's acting as men, and why is there a man doing as a woman's actor? Why do they still have that kind of existence? Is because they have the right to choose whether they're gonna compete it in their different gender or in their same genders. Because, you know, if we do not abolish this, then they're only gonna compete in the same categories. But then how are we gonna compete it? How are we gonna compete like because they're competing with their same genders. It's because so that's why all around the people who is going to do that actor, for example, there's an actor of a man, and only men is gonna compete that, right? But do you think that this is really an inequality? No. As our first speaker had already mentioned, that if we want to have the equality, then there should be both men and a woman competing in the same actors. Because then why? Then even though what the team opposition had explained in their whole speeches, why do we still have continued to have the existence of women doing the men's acting, and why is there a man doing as a woman's actor? Because we're not just gonna know their acting as their, appearance or what they're doing it, but we're gonna just like choose who's the going to be the best actor as how they're acting. Because if there's a woman by who's acting as a man, then she should have the right to do the man's acting because she has the acting of how she's gonna act as a man.
Right.
No, thank you. Sorry. But then, even though the opposition had explained that, oh, everyone has different skills and men and women have different skills, so that's why they should go to ask what their gender is. That just like going to just like be, we can also say that then how they're gonna just like these women are gonna act as a woman even though their own life is acting as a man. If this is true, and even though what the opposition side says is true, then I just continue to ask you that then why do we still have the existence of men competing the women's acting and women acting as a man and competing the men?
Right, please engage.
Sorry, I said no thank you. So then, so that's like we still have the existence, and we cannot just like say that no, we don't have this existence. Yes, we have the existence of this, and if we just like split them as because of their gender, then this the right, or is this the thing that we should as the audiences look at it? Is this the thing that the audiences really are supposed to look at the videos or like the movies that they don't want to see it? Because there are several actors who are doing their opposite of their gender. Because I also saw in the movies that there are several people who are, I can see that they're the men's, but they're acting as a woman, and there's a woman actor who's acting as a man. We still have that kind of existence, and we cannot say that this is not true. So, in conclusion, even though what the team opposition says is true, we cannot say that this is happening in the status quo because we still have the existence of women acting as a man and women and men acting as a woman. So even though they said that they have different skills, so it's better to just like split in as their gender category. It doesn't really mean that they're, the movie is gonna just like have a better movie because they're just like splitting them as a gender. But then why is there no rights of women not being able to act as men and women not being able to act as men? Oh, wait, sorry. Why is there's no right of women being able to act as men and men being able to act as women? Because of this, if we did not abolish this, then what is happening in the status quo is going to continue to happen. So that's why men is going to compete as men and women is going to compete as women. But do you think that this is the real life or the situation that the movies wants to have to be saw by the audiences? But no, this is not really true because there are several women who wanted to act as men and men wanted to act as women. That's good, right? But the opposition side is just gonna split that, oh, your gender is men, so you should compete as a man. Is this the true thing that we should want to have in the society? No. So in conclusion, we are so proud to propose this motion. Thank you.
My speech will be very simple. It will be, first of all, moving on to an extension on what my partner was just talking about, then going on to some rebuttals, and finally some best case, worst case scenario weighing and why we win over our upper house. So let's first go into like a quick extension on what my partner was talking about. So she mentioned how we're able to empower more young actors, and especially in this case, more young women. I would like to extend upon that by saying that is because even if in the best case scenario of, for example, let's say the government bench, the number of people who are going to win, for example, the award will be equal. There will be like one man winning it this year, one woman winning it this year, but we still think that is harmful on their side because it means that there are just less role models one year for example, young actors. For example, in the year in which men won the award, less women actors will be aspired to win because they think that women are, for example, losing out opportunities in the field. Even if we flip it in that case, if women consistently, for example, win it for like 2-3 years, we believe men actors, young men actors, even just men, young boys in general, they can lose inspiration to work in that industry because they think that, for example, men do not gain an advantage, etc., etc. We believe that only by allowing two gender categories are we able to actually aspire people, actors of both genders in this case, and thus allow more opportunities, more competition, like the way the government frames it, and thus better quality works because we provide more inspiration. But secondly, we would like to extend upon like the point about how like there's going to be structural inequality by saying that only by having two gender categories can we see the actual difference in gender inequality between like males and females. For example, when we have a male best actor and a female best actress, and we can see that the male is definitely getting a character that is more complex, more relatable, and definitely portrayed better, like a round character. While as for example, the best female actress gets something like a flat character of, for example, a girl who is basically just a very traditional kind of like midwife character. We believe it is way more objective and easier for people to realize the difference between, for example, the resources poured onto them and thus help them to actually change the industry as a whole. However, on their side, when we have only one gender category for basically every single price, the public isn't able to know what is actually, for example, the merit or, for example, the standard for winning this competition. They don't get to directly compare, for example, the merits for a man winning, the merits for women winning, etc., etc. And thus, we believe that the impact of changing the industry and structural bias will be slower. But moving on to rebuttals. So the opening government first. They talked about number one, how there will be only one price, which basically results in scarcity, makes prices competitive, etc., etc. We have some new responses besides what the opening opposition provided you. Number one, we say that this is a mitigatory response on our side, that their impact is very minimal because we don't see how having like one prize less is suddenly going to exponentially create way more competition and higher quality artworks because in the status quo, the top one in gender categories is still very prestigious and the competition is already really, really fierce. But secondly, a direct attack, we think that with one prize, there will be fewer winners each year, which means that there will be fewer diverse stories with different gender perspectives celebrated, which means there will be less incentive for students to invest in like female-led, or in this case, non-traditional narratives that don't actually win this one prize. But thirdly, we think that with only one prize, it is rather likely for women to give up on trying to achieve the prize because they are aware that they are structurally less advantaged. Even if, for example, they want to flip it and say, oh, there are no structural disadvantages, we think either side losing that motivation is bad for the industry as a whole. But secondly, they talk about how this is going to be beneficial for non-binary people, making sure that they are not going to be marginalized. However, Judge, number one, we say the solution is just to add a non-binary population prize category. Now, if they're going to say that there are just not a lot of non-binary people and that it will not be a lot of competition, then we don't see how providing this population the chance to win one prize that is wanted by every single actor, including both men and women, which are considered like traditional genders, so they get like more resources, is an impact that outweighs the chance for all actresses to win a prestigious prize that is competed by a population who has equal resources. Even if it's true that it's going to be beneficial and there is a small population, it still doesn't outweigh. But thirdly, they talk about how we should expand categories to celebrate like more people, which is what we're trying to achieve on our side. We agree that we want to celebrate more people, but Judge, intuitively, just an intuition check, isn't expanding categories what we are doing on our side by having like two gender categories, even more gender categories? We think that this is a clash on their side. But moving on to closing government, number one, they talk about how studios, they will be forced to give people things like better roles to solve gender inequality, because people will realize that inequality exists once, for example, men win the award like 10 years in a row, women don't win anything, for example. However, that basically, number one, relies on the assumption that visible inequality equals to action on, for example, the structural side. We think history actually proves the opposite. As a person who is actually like actively focusing on like actors and the Oscars, I constantly watch them. I think that the Oscars, they already have things like visible inequality. For example, best directors, there were only something like less than 5 women who ever won this prize in history. People have already been arguing against that, saying that it's gender inequality, but no changes has ever been done. We think that visibility without structural change, it just becomes something accepted currently right now. People just say, oh, that's really sad, there aren't going to be equality, and then they just move on. But also, once again, we have said that gender categories actually reveal inequality more effectively by direct comparison. But last but not least, we think the burden of proof is actually on the government to show how this shame will actually work. For example, where has visible award inequality ever forced like industry change? How will this kind of shame actually push them to change? Will the public be able to, for example, start protests? Will they write letters to the committee? We don't see any response. But also, they talk about how what if a woman wants to act when men is acting? We see that a unisex category actually hurts, in this case, her chances of winning, because in a single best performance category, she's competing directly against like a man. So the man will be seen as like acting authentically, while she's just seen as doing something like a gimmick, basically. But moving on to best case, worst case scenario. So let's look at the government's best case. Let's say that intuitions respond to public backlash. The number of men and women who win this award are similar and equal. The juries are completely unbiased. However, number one, we still lose the ability to compare categories over time. That's structural inequality. But even if we say that if women win, for example, let's say 50% of the prizes at the time in a unisex category, is that just bias or like randomness? We still can't tell without a gendered baseline. We can't really tell if, for example, the committee is just purposefully giving women more of these awards because they want to like avoid social backlash, or is it actually true that women are giving more resources? Because like the Grammys don't tell you like, oh, I gave this much money to women this year, I don't give that much money to, for example, men this year. But also, last but not least, relating to our comparison, we say that there will be less role models. But quickly weighed against your opening house, so what they talked about is basically how we need both skill sets to be seen in the industry. However, number one, they didn't quite extend on why that is important and very necessary, why we need that variety in this field. Well, we give you tangible impacts, like, for example, trying to solve structural inequality, or at least moving a step forward in solving this inequality between like men and women, or even all gender categories as a whole. And we also give you benefits for non-binary people. So for all of these reasons, we're so proud to oppose.